Welcome to the Hoppothetically podcast with Nikki Downtown and Fat Nate. We provide thoughtful and correct answers to probably the most important questions in the world. I'm a New York City-based comedian. Nathan is a New York City-based dyslexic. Thank you so much for being here. We hope you enjoy the show. Hoppothetically episode 1, Hoppothetically Patreon episode 1. Hoppothetically is the name of the podcast.
Yes. Starting off, getting one right.
Well, we're back here at Grandma's basement. She really wants us to put all this shit away. This is not a podcast studio. This is like a furnace area in an old house. One day when Grandma no longer lives here, we'll look back at these episodes and feel very sad. We love Grandma. I was going to say we love that old bird, but she wouldn't really be an old bird.
No.
Certain types of people are old birds, and she's an old something else.
I don't want to riff about what animal a grandmother would be. Feels like we're just going to be mean to Grandma.
If you could, we have a great grandma, but if you could just design a grandma from the ground up.
Oh, what's my first step when I'm designing ground up, working on a grandma? I feel like I'm just going to compare and contrast to our grandma.
Blank slate.
Blank slate? That's really tough. I'm going to start with Betty White because I think she's the ideal grandma, and then I'll work from there. I feel like she's racist, so less racist Betty White is where...
No, you're thinking of someone else.
I feel like they're all racist.
Betty White's dead. You're calling a dead woman a racist.
She was like a 90-year-old white woman. What do you think her opinions were? I feel like you have to cut out I don't know if it's racist, but I'm just going to say a non-racist Betty White. If she wasn't racist, then I'm just saying Betty White. But if she was racist, I'm playing it safe. Taller, skinnier.
You were worried about ripping on Grandma, now you're just shitting on Betty White.
Yeah, it feels safer.
I want Betty White, except I don't want such a fat racist.
Yeah, less, I guess just saying more northern. I'm just shitting on the South. A more northern Betty White. One that's a little taller, little skinnier, maybe a little less southern charm. Picks up the pace a little bit. I feel like a lot of people don't. When they're making their ideal grandma, no one ever considers how slow old women are. So just one with a little more speed, maybe a little spice behind that tongue.
Oh, you mean like conversationally quick? Or
Both, faster. I don't want to see that grandma shuffle when we're at the grocery store.
It feels like now you're shitting on our grandma again.
I'm not.
It seems like that's the inspiration for this.
I'm shitting on general grandmas. There's no grandma in particular except yours.
Grandma as an institution.
Yeah, as an idea. So I'm guessing a little taller, a little faster, maybe a little quippy. I still love good card playing, but I'd prefer poker. Yeah,
instead of the classic pinochle or bridge grandma.
Yeah. I don't care about it. I want one that's like into gambling. Maybe has a history, went to prison for a few years, has a felony under their belt, something a little spicy. I don't want something non-violent though. I don't want drug offense. I think that's kind of lame. Maybe they tried to rob a bank non-violently. Something that put them a few years. They got some wisdom on the streets.
She tried to go into a bank and just act like a confused grandma and walk out with all the money. She starts walking out and they're like, wait, she's really fast. Yeah. Shit, what the fuck? Catch her. She looks like skinny Betty White. And she's like, thank you.
I don't really care about the cooking either. That's not a problem.
Do you feel that restaurants have, in a sense, or replaced grandmas? A lot of the responsibility. It's the nice grandma cooking, but then you're like, I'd rather just have... You know what's better than your mom or grandma's cooking is any restaurant.
Yeah. I'd rather just not feel guilty about not calling them on their birthday. I don't have to call Applebee's on their birthday ever.
I do, though. I call them and I'm like, hey. And they're like, hi, this is Sean with Applebee's. Are you making a reservation? And I'm like, Sean, come on. Come on, Sean. You know why I'm calling.
He's like, to go order?
And Sean is in high school. If I was designing a grandma, I think I think picking a grandma as a template pigeonholes you a little bit. So I'm keeping it. All I know is that she's going to be big. I just start with a 190 pound just mound of grandma flesh, and we'll sculpt her from there. Are you picturing it? Just a wrinkly sort of big sack just on the ground,
a giant thing of aged dough,
right? And it's just a puddle on the ground. And now we add the bones.
I feel like you're gonna forget do you know the bones? I feel like if you don't start with an actual person, your grandma's gonna have do people have no knees?
No, so you start with the big 90-pound flesh ball, 190 pound. I keep saying 90 pound. 190 pounds of old wrinkly flesh.
And then you put...
glasses. I want my grandma to have glasses. I know that. All right.
How many bones are in the human body? I'm really worried you're going to forget about a bone or something.
Like 230 or something.
Your grandma's going to have a lot more bones. I think it's like 216. Your grandma's going to have 15 extra bones. Where is that? Where they're going? Tail? What do you do with that?
Yes, my grandma. All right, so it's a mound of flesh, glasses, and a grandma tail. Bushy tail.
For knitting.
Hairy, bushy grandma tail.
For knitting.
And it wags when she's happy because you remembered to call her on her birthday and send a thank you card.
That would help. Grandmas are pretty cryptic. It'd be useful to know their mood generally. And you just got to make sure it will all fit in the grandma cage when you put her away at night. I think the problem is when you're deciding whether or not to make your own grandma, it's like, do you really have the time in your life to take care of a grandma?
You should, because they took care of you.
I guess, but it's just a lot of work. You got to call them. They're pretty slow.
I didn't finish designing my grandma. It's still just a mound of flesh on the ground with glasses and a tail. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's not bad.
No, that's not a bad...
We'll just leave it there. Maybe one little like spot of flesh has like the classic curly grandma bob hair, and that's it.
So she doesn't have bones, or she just has bones?
I decided to go with no bones.
But I
feel like no bones is better for hugging. I want to just hug an amorphous, and she wears a dress.
I'm worried you're not considering that like concentrated old person smell that's going to get really trapped in the dough. There's no air getting out of it. It's going to smell.
I'm excited. People are going to be like, what do you and your grandma do together? Do you play cards? And I go, no, I just need her. I need her, and then I rolling pin, and that's how we get all the mold out.
And she goes, ooh.
She doesn't talk. She has no ability for
she can't breathe.
Self-thought.
Oh my.
She's a mound of flesh.
Oh, geez.
But I love her.
Yeah, that's the
She's big. People will see her and they'll go, damn, Nick, your grandma is big. And I'll go, thank you. Yes, I designed her to be that way. She would be like, our real grandma would be the Christmas grandma, and then this grandma would be the Thanksgiving grandma. No, I'm not going to give mound of flesh grandma Christmas.
Who gets Easter?
Easter would be fun with mound of flesh grandma, because you're like, where's all the eggs? And you're like,
they're in
I know where they are. Let's open those folds, grandma. And you get in the folds.
It would just be everyone would put their hand in this weird doughy jelly.
And it turns out that's not where the eggs are. And you're like, oh. Yeah. Well, it feels you pull out an egg, but it's not the Easter egg. It's like a different kind of, it's like a weird
your
alien.
Hands soaking wet. You're like, Jesus.
I love the grandma house smell. What if you found out the grandma house smell was something awful?
Like what?
One 30-year-old just piece of cheese that grandma lost in the 80s. And you're just like, it just reminds me of childhood. And then she finds it, and it's
every grandmother.
It makes your face melt, and you're like, oh God.
Every grandmother that exists has this cheese. Women in their 50s lose single pieces of cheese around the house as a defense mechanism so that it creates this natural smell, so it wards away predators as they get older and they can't as easily protect themselves.
But the kids love it. Grandmas do all have a smell. I feel like it's like almost like a pheromone, but like the opposite.
Yeah.
Like how young people have pheromones for attraction, grandmas have pheromones to attract grandchildren. Not even theirs, just whatever.
I feel like certain people would monopolize on that pheromone.
Who?
Pedophiles.
Mound of flesh grandma?
I feel like people would take mound of flesh grandma, put her in a truck, and then drive around and be like, hey, kids, come play with your fleshy grandma dough.
I would hang out with mound of flesh grandma, and I would talk to her, and she wouldn't answer, and I would just keep saying stuff louder, like she was a regular grandma. I know she has no ears, but I would pretend. I'd be like, Grandma, how you doing? Grandma, how you doing? She doesn't hear so good anymore. And when she was, I would show old pictures of her when she was a hard ball
rock,
of like just a perfect sphere of tan marble.
Those old black and white photos where everyone's looking straight at the camera, and then there's just this rock of a woman.
Just not even of a. She's wearing 70s clothes. She has like a tie-dye shirt and like bell bottoms, and she's just a sphere.
Oh, I imagine more of an egg shape, but yeah, sure. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Ew, dude, that's your grandma. Don't imagine your grandma's egg-shaped body. She's fucked up.
Yeah. People always talk about how back in the day she was beautiful. It's like, I think she's an egg.
Dude, back in the day, your grandma had no edges. Just smooth.
Oh, yeah. Those curves. And then
smooth and heavy.
They're like, I think the curves are supposed to be like this.
Yeah, it's just one continuous curve.
Oh, yeah. This may not even be a unique question. They just may be something that happens to people in New York. And as a soon-to-be New Yorker, I have some concerns and worries. So if you're walking down the street in New York City and just someone walks up to you and it's just like, I'm so fucking clean. And he's just demanding how clean he is. And then he's just, after a few minutes of just being, I'm fucking clean. And then he just demands that you taste it. You just taste the clean. What do you do?
What street are you on? anything in Alphabet City, you fucking taste the clean. I live in New York. I know nothing about it. You in Brooklyn? Are you in East New York? If you're in East New York and a man tells you to taste the clean, you fucking taste the clean.
Yeah. He's not necessarily naked, but it looks like he's going that way. Like he's starting to unbutton.
He's like, you're like wearing clothes, and he's like, clothes are a form of dirty.
I'm so clean.
I'm perfect. And anything I would put on, I mean, it's like cotton dust. That's what a shirt is.
So he's naked. And you know what? He looks pretty clean.
Is he shaved?
Oh, he's so shaved. That's all part of the clean. He's as smooth as a baby.
What if you lived with someone who kept saying they were pranking you and their only prank was they just kept your pubes shaved? You'd wake up and your pubes were shaved.
I think I would shave his pubes. We would both be manscaped, and when we hooked up with women, they'd be like, "Oh, it's so nice that you manscape." It's 2022. It's like, I actually don't.
Dude, it'd be so funny if you were like, you and a buddy were at a party or a bar, and you kept going to it, and you were like, "Hey, dude, that guy over there, I've been totally fucking with him. I shave his pubes every night." Everyone's like, "What?" And then they talk to the other guy, and they're like, "Dude, Nathan, I shave his pubes." And everyone's like, "These guys shave each other's pubes, and they think it's funny."
Yeah, and I don't think you have to shave your pubes every night. I don't think they grow back that fast.
Dude, what if someone did shave your pubes and then tried to act like they didn't shave you? Like, you have one roommate and you're like, "Hey, my pubes are gone," and they're like, "What?
Yeah,
your pubes are gone?"
Yeah, I think if you're gonna shave someone pubes, you have to unlock the door, knock down shit, steal some stuff, make it look like someone broke into your home.
There was a robbery, and I don't want to talk about what else happened.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be an awesome prank, I think, or maybe it wouldn't be an awesome prank. When someone's sleeping, or if they get pass out drunk, you shave their pubes, but then all the pube shavings, you just leave sitting on where their pubes were. And then they wake up in the morning, everything looks normal, and then they stand up and their pubes just fall off, and they're like, "Oh God!"
And then their eyebrows and their facial hair and their head hair also fall off. I think what you do is you do that to them, and then when they wake up, you whisper to them in the ear, like, "Don't move. If you move, all of your hair will fall off."
Could you somehow as a prank give someone more pubes or different pubes? Let's not talk about pubes, Nathan.
Yeah. This was about good old...
What's the question again?
Walking around New York, guy who's so fucking clean, he demands you taste it.
Dude, if I'm being honest, if I was in New York and somebody kept saying that to me, that they're so fucking clean, my actual response would just be like, "I'm sorry, I don't have any money." That really is what you would say. Like, if I'm being... They're like, "I'm so goddamn clean." You're like, "That's awesome. I don't have any money. I wish I did."
And what if he shows you...
the secret is, I do.
What if he goes, "You don't have money," and then he's just like, he shows you another part of his body that's even cleaner. Now he's trying to sell you on how clean would they have to be before you gave them money.
You know what's ironic is, like, normally between your butt cheeks and your ass is probably the dirtiest part of your body, but if you were really committed to cleanliness, you could probably because it's the least impacted by the outside environment, so you could make it the cleanest part of your body. Your butt cheeks would protect that space from the dirty, dirty world.
I actually have a really gross story about butthole cleaning.
I have a really pleasant, nice story about butthole cleaning that families like to hear. I tell it at picnics and events with children. You know?
Well,
you do yours first, and then I'll do mine.
Yeah. We'll have a nice...
Mine's about friendship.
Yeah, yours will have a happy ending. No. I was with a friend of mine and a guy I didn't know very well, and we were all talking about what it would take for us to eat ass. And I was just like, I don't know if I would do it. I just don't think that's in my cards. And then my friend was like, "Oh, I mean, like, if they got like an enema and really cleaned it out, I'd probably eat some ass." And then the third guy, who is a friend of my friend, looked disgusted by my friend's answer, and he was like, "Dude, it's like having chicken without the seasoning. Gotta keep the flavor."
In this case, the poo is the flavor.
Yeah, that's the seasoning.
The poo.
Yeah.
Debris.
Yeah, that's the flavor. That's when they talk about Flavor Town, that's what Flavor Town is.
I will say there is something like poo has a smell, but then also butt has a smell.
They're different.
Like, you ever scratch your ass and smell your finger? Mm-hmm. Me too. Mm-hmm. I have noticed the rate at which I scratch my ass and smell my finger has gone up exponentially since I started working from home. I was in the office all week. I only did it like 15 times. But at home, it's like...
Oh, yeah. I just have a finger in there all the time.
Dude, because, you know, most people are like, "Don't talk to me until I have my coffee." Like, I start my day off with the smell of my ass.
Do you think when people talk about how people actually have a higher, are like 20-30% more effective working from home, do you think part of that has to do with the ass smell? That you have something you're working towards now?
Yeah, it's a motivator. I go, I'm not going to smell my ass again until I send this email. This is a very important email, and once I do it, I will smell my... I always do my first finger, but I feel like pinky would be... That's fucked up. Like, that's...
You think it's a... I always imagined it like back in like the 1800s, the nobility would use their pinky.
Oh, you drink tea with your pinky up? They don't even smell it. They just waft it. If a guy came up to me and said, hey, I'm really clean, the most clean person you've seen today.
Yeah.
And then you look and he's having a herpes flare up. And he's like, that, you can't judge me for that.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
And then he's like, you know what? Fine. Fuck you. Sorry, everybody. Let me rephrase. Except for the herpes, which this fucking guy pointed out, I'm the cleanest. Except for the herpes. I was lied to, all right? Are you happy? I was lied to.
Yeah, but sir, I feel like you could just not go out on days you have herpes. You could just go out on days you didn't have a herpes flare-up, and then you could just actually be the cleanest person, you've seen all day. This is on you.
What if I started like a maid service, like a cleaning your house service, but the pitch was that I'm also a virgin, so I am clean.
Oh, it's
all
not...
of the other people who clean your house are disgusting, dirty sluts, and they filth up your house with their sin. But not me. I, a virgin.
Yeah.
When I clean your house, keep it.
You put the whole maid industry paradigm on its head.
The slutty maid industry.
By calling them whores.
I'd be virgin house cleaning services. I am a virgin, and I will clean your windows.
How will you convince people that you are a virgin?
I'll show them my penis. You can see a virgin penis from a mile away if you have binoculars. And you go to a school. I don't know. What if Evel Knievel was actually evil? All I know about him is that he jumps his motorcycle, but it was all part of an evil plan that ends with him jumping over a motorcycle. He gets a whole big crowd because he's going to do a huge jump, and then he jumps, and everyone's like, woo! And then his motorcycle lands on a bunch of orphans that you just didn't notice because there was such a spectacle over here. And you're like, oh! And he's like, Evel Knievel, I did it again. He has the big jump, and all the proceeds, he says, go to charity. But then you don't hear about, you're like, so ACLU, did you get it? And they're like, we didn't get it.
No.
Like, that's Evel Knievel for you.
Maybe he has to spend all his time doing these crazy stunts. He doesn't even really have the time to be evil. So just as an afterthought, they're like, what was evil about you jumping over this lake? And he was like, well, there was pollutants that came out of the motorcycle, and I'm probably not going to clean it up.
He just thinks it's evil. He's like, oh, I bet you guys want me to fucking drive just on the road like normal. But I'm not going to do it because fuck society.
Yeah. Just takes the lint out of his pocket and throws it on the ground afterwards. Like, got him.
I feel like if there was an evil Knievel, it would be like a classic like villain movie where he ties some woman on the train tracks and the train's coming, and then right before it gets to her, the train jumps her. And he's like, that's badass. And they're like, well, that wasn't that evil. And he's like, shit, okay, all right, I'm gonna rework that.
Yeah, I'll think about it. He's like, but how do I get the stunt in there? Because I'm not Evel Knievel unless I do the Knievel part.
Yeah, he has regular he like robs a bank, and then he gets on his motorcycle with all the money, and he's like, now I'm gonna jump the bank. And the cops are just waiting at the on-ramp or whatever. Like, I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd watch it. My problem is I'm worried. Okay, so is this, because my thought is there'd be regular Evel Knievel and then Evil Knievel. And I'm worried everyone would be like, oh, it's Evel Knievel. And he's like, no, guys, it's evil Knievel. Jesus.
I'd want there to be a good Knievel. Evel Knievel does the jump, and then good Knievel appears out of nowhere, jumps the other side, and just tackles him midair. Yeah. Get back down, Evel Knievel. I'm good Knievel.
They're like the yin and yang. If one ever kills the other, they just reincarnate into another person.
I would love a character he's like, I'm good Knievel, and I drive very safely. That should be when you get your license. There's a guy with like all the Evel Knievel stuff on, like the helmet and the whatever the fuck, and he's like, I'm good Knievel, and then he just has very good. It used to be 10-2, but now, it's 8-4. And he gets a text and he just ignores it.
He doesn't even look at it.
Wow, good Knievel.
Yeah, and it's crazy. He's so into it. Even when he's driving, he's still commenting on your posture, but he doesn't look at you. He knows that you're not doing it. He would never take his eyes off the road.
Yeah, you're telling a fascinating story, and he's not even. He's like. Very good story.
Yeah. Good and evil. What would you do if you were the reincarnate of... You're like, I think I'm a Knievel. And they're like, oh, yeah, you reincarnated as the good Knievel. And you're like, oh, what does that mean? He's like, we'll just start learning the rules of the road, I guess. You're 8. They take you out of school. They don't let you do anything else. Because your job is to be a really safe and good driver. Because without you, the whole world would go into chaos because of evil Knievel.
And then many generations later, there's a neutral Knievel.
No, that's just regular evil Knievel. There's evil Knievel, Knievel, and there's good Knievel. There's a
And the first evil Knievel's like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
Everyone just, all of his fan mail, it's just people asking him to change his name to Medium Knievel.
Or, so like, I like the idea of evil Knievel. He does the jump, and when he's in midair, he just takes out a gun and starts just shooting people. And they're like, what the fuck was that? He's like, evil, remember? I'm evil. I feel like people overlook that a lot, but I am evil.
Well, you put on your flyers that you were evil Knievel. We thought you were the other evil. This is why
it was in all caps. Didn't you read I'm evil?
They're all in all caps. You guys just are ecstatic.
He's like, I didn't see the other flyers. That's my bad. I want to apologize to the fans.
Of evil Knievel.
Yeah. That'd be so funny. He does a jump and just shoots one audience member. But like, well, that was still a good jump, but...
And then instead of when people are all upset, he just tries to talk about how what he does is actually better. He relates it to like skeet shooting, where the people that ski down the hill and have to shoot. He's like, no, it's actually very hard. I spend months practicing going on hills and then trying to shoot. It's way more impressive than regular evil Knievel.
Or like, instead of shooting somebody, evil Knievel does the jump, and then in midair, he pulls out a puppy and just drops the puppy. Jumps, and everyone's like, woo! And then he pulls out the puppy, and they're like, no! But then he hits the landing, and they're like, woo! And then the puppy hits the ground, and they're like, no! You are like in prison, and they're doing like, kids are coming in, they're doing like a scared straight program. They all come in, and you're one of the prisoners, and you go first, and you're like, yeah, you can't drop the soap. You will beat the shit out of you and try to scare them physically, and just the normal prison stuff. And then the next guy just starts talking about fucking like goblins. Like, there's goblins and dragons here that will fucking devour you. And you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, he's like, you made shit up too. It's like, yeah, but your thing was like goblins. And I guess just like, what do you do now? You can't. You've just been so one-upped. Yeah, they're like, what's the worst part about prison? You're like, the Minotaur. Body of a man, head of a bull. Dude, and if you find yourself in the labyrinth, yeah, you're so fucked.
Yeah, don't drop the soap or the Hydra will get you. Like, what do you do as the first guy? You get to, like, you just left the shower, you're going into the kitchen.
The guy keeps, like, riffing. He's like, no, I'm saying if you drop the soap, you'll get you'll get raped. He's like, yeah, by the Grim Reaper.
Is that what you do? You just try to one-up him more?
Yeah, he's like, you'll have to join a gang of headless horsemen.
You're like losing the kids, but you can't reel it back. It has to keep escalating. If you talked about getting raped by the Grim Reaper, you can't go from that to like, the food's pretty bad. And all the kids are like, boo! Keep talking about the demons.
If you had if in a Scared Straight program, you had a really elaborate story about a prisoner who vanished, and then in the bathroom you see his ghost, and all the other prisoners are like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, and whenever there's a full moon, you can see if you go into the bathroom and say "Rapey Tim" 3 times, and then look in the mirror, "Rapey Tim."
Yeah. The next guy tries to tack on to the Rapey Tim story, and the guy before is like, "No, you don't know Rapey
shut
Tim.
The fuck up! You don't know.
Yeah, you're in Block B. Rapey Tim's in C."
Yeah, they're like asking about individual people, and it's like, that guy's a Crip. He's like, yeah, that guy's a Crip, but that guy is a witch. That guy knows about Wiccan shit. You know, the first guy, you go into his cell and he'll be like, what do you do in SA? And he'll stab you. But the second guy, he has a big cauldron and he's stirring potions. Dude, prison is tough.
Yeah.
All right, Hoppothetically, episode 31. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.